Hello, welcome. This is week 12. My name is James J. I'm going to start off with a short poem by Billy Collins. Billy Collins is writing in response to the famous Smokey the Bear, "Only You Can Prevent Forest Fires" ads. Those pictures, of Smokey the Bear that are pretty well known now, and this is what he came up with: Flames. Smokey the Bear heads into the autumn woods with a red can of gasoline and a box of matches. His hat is cocked at a disturbing angle. The moonlight catches the teeth of his smile. His paws, the size of catcher's mitts, crackle into the distance. He is sick of dispensing warnings to the careless, the half-wit camper, the dumbbell hiker. He is going to show them how a professional does it. No one runs after him with the famous lecture. So, Billy Collins. And figured I'd start things off for week 12 with a word from the poet, a former poet laureate, Billy Collins. And that'll be included in your module a little bit. That's going to tie into what we're up to next. That is to say, we're going to be responding for our next paper, responding to a work of visual art with poetry. In that case, he's responding to the old Smokey the Bear ad campaigns. So yeah, let me start with a little bit of housekeeping, getting some things in order, and then we'll hop right into what we'll be up to next. So I'm still going through your fifth formal assignment, which was the poem in response to the poetry we've been reading so far. And I've gone through everything and read through, and then now I'm going through the individual papers or poems and putting grades on there and comments, that kind of thing. So I'm about a third of the way through the particular comments. I've read through everything though, and we're off to a very good start. I think I could tell there was quite a bit of folks that were looking at something particular and looking at their poems from an odd angle and I guess a unique angle. So that was really it was a great. We're off to actually a very good start, very strong start. I never know what the poetry transition. Sometimes class wise there'll be a group of folks that poetry is just not their thing and it's a tough shift. For others, like they've been waiting for it. It's a welcome transition. So so far it seems like we're off to a pretty good start. So even if you've been having a tough time with making that switch, you've probably done a good job of hiding that. So good job. Keep it up. And but I think we're up to some pretty good stuff. So that's pretty promising for the last third of this class. So yeah, I'll get the rest of those poems though graded and get those back to you within the next few days, mid week towards at least by Thursday. I think I'll have everyone responded to, as well as along the lines of some of the housekeeping on the last quiz and quiz 7. There was I put in something silly where I'd made something I'd put in multiple answers I think to a question, so it somehow calculated 7 points when there were only 5 points. I got a few messages from folks saying, "Hey, I did the quiz, or did I miss a couple of questions? I got all 5 questions right, and somehow it says 5 out of 7." I have that corrected now. So if there is any sort of glitch on that, that was just my mistake. If there is any sort of glitch on there, please let me know, and it should be all fixed. But let me know, and I'll get that taken care of. Sorry about the confusion there. Thanks for letting me know. So I'm kind of surprised that we haven't had more of those things as far as just with juggling through trying to get everything set up. But yeah, so that was just an error on my part. So those should all be corrected by now. And along those lines too, I was emphasizing last week that it's a good idea to start at least looking at where you're at in the course in terms of trying to think about your grade, the overall points, that type of thing. So it seems like from some of the messages I got back from folks, some of the emails with questions, that folks are thinking about that. So keep that up. I think that's good to have that strategy. So hopefully you're still enjoying the writing, enjoying the reading, but at the same time keeping in mind that we're here to pass the course and to get the grade that you want. So I'll keep plugging my way through on poem 5. We're getting close to that point where we can start making a dash towards the finish line, towards the end of the semester. I don't think we're just on the precipice of getting there. So what I'll do though is I'm going to talk about your next formal writing assignment, and then I'll talk a little bit about how we're going to wrap up the semester. So Assignment 6, formal assignment 6. It's going to be poetry in response to a visual work of art. And I have included in that module, I've included your that assignment. So you've got the written information there. And I'm just going to kind of scan through and read through that, and maybe make some little asides as I'm doing that. So for assignment 6, we're looking at we're responding to poetry in response to a visual work of art. I mentioned this should seem somewhat familiar, right? We did that. We did something similar to this with our second assignment. So we had flash fiction or short fiction in response to a visual work of art. And what a lot of folks noticed is that the difficulty with that assignment was, of all the potential options that you have out there virtually and online, that it's hard to select, right? To get one, to just find one. Of course, you did, and successfully did that, and then came up with fiction in response to that. You're going to be doing the same sort of thing as far as you'll find some sort of visual piece of art that just really strikes you, something you absolutely love, speaks to you in some sort of way, and then you'll be writing a poem in response to that, or somehow I guess, sort of under the influence of that visual work of art. So if you want to use this as something like you did before, as far as if you had gone to a certain museum website that was particularly interesting to you, or if there were multiple things from that second paper that you think, gosh, I would have even responded to this other painting by the same artist, or something like that, or something in the similar theme, by all means you can do that. You've done a lot of the research already with that second fiction assignment. So now you can take advantage of having put in that time in research and jump in with your writing. Also, if you want to go in a totally different direction, so that if it's something that you just want to start something fresh and new, then by all means do that. There's no need to necessarily connect this this poem that you're writing, this assignment 6, to the to that second assignment. But I wanted to make a note of that, because part of what we were doing with that second assignment was setting up this particular assignment. So you've put in some of the legwork and done some of the research already. If you want to take advantage of that, by all means do so. If you want to go off in a different direction, that's completely up to you. But the difference is that instead of writing prose, or instead of writing a short story in response to the art, we're going to be looking at it and then writing a poem in response to it. So it's a little bit different. I think that that's something to consider. What we're doing is similar, responding to a visual work of art. How we're doing it, so the how becomes important. So we're looking at it as writers, and how do we respond to something, to the painting, to the photograph, whatever it might be. And so I mentioned in the assignment prompt, multiple things to keep in mind. What we've basically been up to with the last batch of poems that folks did so well with. I've mentioned those things again, as far as come up with some of the line breaks that we've read about, had a little bit of discussion about line breaks, come up with a great title, all those sort of things. As well as I add a little caveat to make sure to use original language, which a lot of folks took advantage of, taking kind of worn out language and making it anew, sort of like I used the example of Larry Levis the other week, and the way that he had the poem that he takes like the most cliche or obvious thing or worn thing to say in a poem. I love you, right? And he says, I have loved you as a man loves an old wound picked up in a razor fight on a street nobody remembers. Look at him now, even in the dark, he touches it gently. So with that old cliche, and then he takes it and makes it something original. A lot of folks seem to really pick up on that. They're as far as taking some common phrase, that's okay. Put that down in your writing as you're getting that first draft, that kind of stuff, and then take that cliche or that worn out piece of language and expand it, morph it, twist it, turn it, make it your own, make it part of your unique voice, right? So I added that with some of the particulars. You make sure to use the original language, something that's a voice that's yours. You folks have been doing a great job of that. And I also mentioned to keep using regular sort of punctuation, writing complete sentences, that kind of stuff. I know that a lot of poems write different fragments, that kind of thing. There's all sorts of reasonings and ways to do that, but that's a whole nother class on forms that we can talk about. For our purposes, for the sake of clarity, let's just stick to regular complete sentences, but the way that you break your lines and work with either in-jammed lines or in-stop lines might add certain turns and twists that might be, I think, pretty unique and engaging. I mentioned don't rhyme. I would encourage you not to rhyme in the poems. Again, that's a whole nother class. I love teaching classes on sonnets and villanelles, those sort of traditional forms that have a real tight rhyme scheme. There's all kinds of strategies for that. Um, but I think for our purposes, there's no need to really overtly rhyme. I think it can kind of backfire more than it can benefit you. And let's see, also the same thing as last time I'd mentioned to read your poems aloud, read them multiple times, right? That's the whole point of getting your ear involved in this thing. And I think that that's absolutely essential. So keep doing that. I had a little twist on here, and this is entirely up to you on this second part. If at that point, if you're happy with the way I've described the assignment, and you want to email me that poem, this assignment 6, when you're done, get that thing into me on the 19th of November. Great. And also, if you would also please include an image that you end up responding to, just like in that second assignment where there was an image from the art gallery or wherever you pull your photo from. If you could put that in there as well, so I can see it. And also, I mean, I find it to be interesting, and you kind of I just find it to be kind of a fun, useful thing. And I can also then get an idea of what you were responding to. You might stick real closely with that image, or you might just kind of go off quickly on off on your own tangent, which either way is perfectly fine. But the twist that I have, we spend a lot of time doing this, looking at screens, these flat screens. And since our class is all online, and there's definitely some advantages to that. Obviously, during a pandemic, we can keep having the class, so that's the main advantage to it. Also, as I had said before, with when looking at things that we're going to respond to, as far as visual arts, if it's online, you have potential access to these museums. So this is really fantastic. So there's a lot of benefits to the way we're doing things. I think that there are quite a few limitations too. One of the things is that we end up our mind when we start looking at screens, it kind of operates in the same sort of way. It's framed by that box, square box, rectangular box, in some ways. And so one of the things that I like to do as far as when I write, I generally write by hand, at least on those first drafts and in journals. We've talked about journals a little bit before too. And I like that. I like the whole prospect of it where just having that blank page and filling it up and almost kind of doodling. Almost I'm thinking too, since we're responding to a visual art, kind of think about kind of like a sketch or that type of thing. I will do that. I am not um, any sort of artist in terms of visual artists like that. No one would be impressed with my sketches. I'm not putting like Michelangelo, who could sketch and be a poet, or William Blake or someone like that. Um, they're not that interesting as sketches, but I like there's still a certain tactile component to writing and kind of scribbling on the page that I enjoy. So to get us away from the screens and get us thinking a little bit differently, if you wanted to handwrite this poem, take a picture of that thing and turn it in that way. Just send the image, email that image over. That would be absolutely fine. I do want to emphasize I'm not necessarily looking for a first draft. I want it to be something polished and something that's every bit as powerful and precise as what we've been up to. But I don't want it to just be kind of dashed off draft. But I think it's worthwhile if that's something that's appealing to you. I know, like as far as the folks are kind of the more tactile learners, that type of thing. If that's useful to you, then I'm going to invite you with this paper to write the thing by hand, and write out a few drafts, perhaps. I've in the past I've enjoyed writing as far as kind of longer scroll paper or that type of thing. Um, I dig doing that, and it does. I don't know if it allows my brain to work in an entirely different way, but it gets me thinking about things in a different way that's, I think, potentially useful. So a lot of times I'll write by hand on those first drafts, write a couple drafts, scratch things out, move things around, put arrows over here. Then I'll rewrite kind of a cleaner copy, and then I'll get, this will happen before I start typing into the machine a little bit. So if you want to do that, I would encourage you to do that. If you are, if you're inclined to, it's something that like you're more comfortable writing on the, on the type on the keyboard, then by all means type it up. It's not a problem. I just thought maybe we could change it up a little bit. We've been going at a very good pace and getting good results for now 12 weeks. So I very much appreciate that effort. And I'm trying to just think of a way that we could kind of change things up as we're getting ready to go into the final stretch here. So um, That's assignment 6. And um, let me give you a little bit of an example. I have included in the module also some information on Bruegel. And Bruegel was a famous painter, and that specifically I'm referring to is painting about Icarus. And if you know the story of Icarus, if you go back to Greek mythology, so Icarus was the boy who flew too close to the sun. Right, his father created the. They're getting ready the. I won't do a real long explanation of the old myth, but the myth is the father and son are locked in like a tower, and the father's a great inventor, and he has created wings with wax and feathers, and so they're going to fly away from the tower and be free. But the father warns the son, that warns Icarus, don't fly up too high, don't fly too high in the sky and get too close to the sun, or else the heat will cause the wax of your wings to melt, and you'll die. And of course, the boy, what did he do? Yeah, he flew too high, and so eventually, in the way that the physics of the world was thought of then, that you could actually fly so close to the sun that your wings would start to melt, and then you would fall. So it's a famous fairy tale, and people have been doing different versions, probably better versions than the little summary I gave you just now of that fairy tale for centuries and centuries. And one of one of the paintings, so Bruegel, the painter, knows that myth, and he's painted a scene called that you'll see in the module there, painting the scene about Icarus falling to the ground. Of course, the thing about it, if you look at that painting, it's mostly you see a plowman kind of working a field. There's a ship in a bay and that type of thing. And if you look in the bottom right, there's it's almost cartoonish looking. There's a little picture of someone upside down splashing into the water. Of course, that's Icarus falling, and everyone else is completely ignoring it. And of course, working with that idea of one person's tragedy and this important tragedy, this Greek myth. Everyone else, people have to plow the field or sailing the ships or working in the bay there. The rest of it's just a small little splash that just happens to go by. So I've always thought that was a pretty interesting painting. So that's the painting, and I guess my long way of getting to that, you'll be able to look at the link and check it out for yourself. And then W.H. Auden ended up writing a response in the 1940s. I'm sorry, 1938. He ended up writing a response of pre-World War II to um, the painting of Bruegel, and that sort of idea of one person's tragedy is just another person's kind of common event, perspective being key, and that type of thing. So I figure I'll give that a read, and this is Auden in response to a painting, and it's Musée des Beaux-Arts, and that's just referring to the museum. That's the name of the museum where the painting is held. About suffering, they were never wrong. The old masters, how well they understood its human position, how it takes place while someone else is eating or opening a window or just walking dully along. How, when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be children who did not specifically want it to happen. Skating on a pond at the edge of the wood, they never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course. Anyhow, in a corner, some untidy spot, where the dogs go on with their doggy life and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. In Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away, quite leisurely, from the disaster. The plowman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had on the white legs disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing, a boy falling out of the sky, had somewhere to get to and sailed calmly on. So, I love that poem, and that's a poem that's I think pretty well known. by W.H. Auden, but I love thinking about it as far as looking at that painting, what he takes out of that, and so it's already you have a myth, you have the interpretation by a painter centuries later, and then even later than that, you get Auden looking at that thing, and now this poem is gosh, it's close to 80, it's over 80 years old, and we're still looking at that. So yeah, I think that that's just a terrific little poem on that painting, and something to think about. Um, yeah, when considering this next assignment, as far as what particular aspect. I think one of the things, and I mean, I don't know. We'll find out when you get writing these things. But I think one of the things with the poem is we are inclined to the poem kind of to look very precisely and look at our own particular angle. So that might be a little more revealing when you're looking at these paintings or these photographs or whatever it is for your visual art that you're responding to. It might be different than trying to construct a whole narrative out of it, right? It might be something that you're looking at a particular angle, and then you can allow all sorts of things to come dancing through your poem, as far as pulling in your own memories, your own shards of memories, or thinking about the events that are surrounding you in the present moment, thinking about more abstract concepts, whatever it might be. You can have fun with it and see where it goes. So that's yeah. I think that'll be good. And I wanted to also get to that Auden poem, and I love that angle. It reminds me of an old Robin Williams movie that came out in the 80s called Survivors, and he's talking to Walter Matthau, who's a grumpy old man. I think he was always played the role of a grumpy old man, and he's Robin Williams is the young kid in that movie, and they're kind of having a little banter back and forth, and Robin Williams says, "Oh well, which war did you fight in?" And he says, and the old man says, "I fought in the big war." He goes, "Oh, World War II?" And he says, "No, Korea. It was big to me." So if you're there, it's big to you. So that idea of perspective, and as far as one person's tragedy being another person's, that just goes on by. There's day to day and all that kind of stuff to do. So what makes tragedy? What makes an event memorable? What makes something notable? And of course, as writers, that's what we're interested in, and that's what we do with our own skills and our own interest and our own drives to capture certain moments. So um, I won't summarize any more Robin Williams movies for the time being. I will look down at my notes and see if there's anything else. I do have one reading assignment that I want to get to you. A couple pages from an essay by Kim Adonisio, who's a poet that we've brought up before in this class, and this is her essay called "Writing and Knowing," and I think it's also a kind of a fun little couple pages to look at. It's from her longer book called "The Poet's Companion," and in this one, she gets after that idea of how do we figure out what we know. I think that's kind of fun. You might have heard some of the phrases or advices that writers often get. Write what you know. I don't know if you've heard that expression before, but as a writer, you should write what you know. If you're a sailor, then you should write about sailing ships, that type of thing. If you're if whatever your profession is, if that's what you really know, you should write about that. And if you're going to write about being a sailor or being on the sea, well, you should be a landlocked person who's never been out to the ocean, at least smelled some salt water, right? It'd be difficult. You could come off as a fake or a phony. So the notion of writing what you know is key. I think that's an important concept. Um, I think Kim Adonisio takes that idea and that kind of standard, maybe even worn cliche advice, and turns around a little bit. And she gets after the idea of like it's you want to write what you know, but how do you know what you know? That kind of idea. So she gets after that idea of what is it that we know as far as some different ideas or strategies for taking our particular things that we know in our particular day-to-day lives and figuring out ways to transform them into poems and things that are memorable and hopefully useful. So, yeah, let me double check on my list to see we've got everything going. We do, and so that'll take care of the week 12 module. I am going to start also posting these modules a little bit faster. So thinking about, I'd mentioned I'd wrap up the class today. with thinking about strategies for closing things for the semester. And we are at that point where I think you can start looking at your overall schedules. Hopefully, you've been doing that and deciding when you're going to start moving to wrap up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start posting these modules at a little faster pace. I've been posting them on Mondays, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding a few extra in there. We'll still get our 16 in for the 16-week class, but what we'll do is in that 16th week includes getting the final portfolio from you and that type of thing. So that's just a little wrap-up lecture. So what I'll do is I'll keep putting these things out, but I'm not going to do them quite. I'm going to do it a little faster pace, basically. I would like to have everything out and available to you by Thanksgiving. So the class is we're still running through the middle of December, right? There still would be well over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks left after Thanksgiving. Um, but I want to get it to you so that if you think, man, it would be nice to wrap this class up a little bit early so you can focus on another class or whatever else you need to, great. You can do that, and especially if you've been moving at a pretty good pace and you're doing well, you got the grade you want so far, the writing's coming along well, then you can potentially make that sprint for the finish starting about now. And I'll start getting all that material ready and out to you. And so then at the same time too, if you're thinking, well, I don't necessarily want to wrap this class up earlier, I got other things to get to, those modules are there. You don't have to work at any faster pace. So don't feel the pressure if you see week 13, week 14, week 15 module popping up every 3 or 4 days. You don't have to do something every 3 or 4 days. Okay, we're still on the same pace. So really pay attention to those deadlines on there, because I'll have those deadlines going way out in advance. But that doesn't mean that's due when those modules pop up. Does that make sense? I know I'm sort of asking to the screen, so I'm just going to, that's my rhetorical pause to give you a chance to say, did that make sense what he was covering? So if you are ready to make the sprint for the end, I'm going to start providing the modules faster. You can wrap it up as quick as you can, get focused on other stuff. If you're coming along at a good pace, no need to change it up and are focused especially on other classes, that type of thing, then don't feel the pressure to get pushed along by those modules popping out. What I'll also do is I'll take advantage of the little announcements area there for any sort of updates too, that as they pop along. That way I can kind of have some communications with everyone that's in the class outside of the module. And so I'll probably have a few more announcements that'll pop up. I think I've only done a few here and there, but I'll have a few more that pop up to kind of keep going with the pacing and that type kind of stuff. So that is the lecture for today. And yeah, I couldn't be more proud of that last batch of poems that just came in and where we're at so far with this class. So everyone is doing just a fantastic job with during a tough time. So so keep it up, have fun with it. Email me if you have any questions or concerns. All right, good luck.